Alright guys, this is day one of reading creepy stories while I play Minecraft. I might keep the channel Minecraft, who knows, might have a different game I'm playing in the back, but let's start this off. Creepy guy that's been showing up every night. My house sits fairly back from the road, around 150 feet roughly, maybe a little further. Between the entrance to my driveway and my front porch, I have 3 vehicles parked that would obscure the view from anyone walking or driving. I live in the country, on a side road with no stores or anything along it or nearby. So someone getting lost out here looking for an address or something out here is unlikely. There's really no reason to be here at all, unless you know someone, and while the roads are a couple miles long, there's only 6 houses on it because it's an agricultural area with wide gaps between neighbors. No street lights, literally almost pitch black out here at night. About a week ago, I was waiting for the mom of the boy I sit for to come pick him up. It was still pretty light out. It was about 7 p.m, so it was just starting to get dimmer outside. When the kid's mom came to get him, she and I were talking outside the car for a minute while he was finishing a match on Apex when we both heard a noise that sounded like someone trying to stifle a call from the kiwi orchard bordering my house. I thought it was her kid because he tries to jump scare me all the time lately. Despite stealth not exactly being in his wheelhouse, so coughing or laughing when he's setting up to try and get me and giving away his position is a common thing, so I paid exactly 0 attention to it. A couple minutes later, he came flying out of my front door and they left. I didn't even realize until later that that was weird because who the F was coughing in the orchard? But at the time, it's just didn't even register. Later that night, I was sitting out on my porch smoking. It was sometime between midnight and 1 a.m. My lighter was dead, so I lit a cigarette in the house on my stove, then ran outside with it. I was sitting with my back to the road smoking. I had no porch lights on. My phone was on the dimmest screen setting because I didn't want to entice the mosquitoes. About halfway through smoking, a man spoke up from somewhere near me and asked if he could have a cigarette. It surprised me so much I literally just froze. Literally thought an ad had popped up in the background tab of my phone or something. And then he said it again, so I turned around and he was right behind me. This dude was tall, like really tall, somewhere between 6'3" and 6'6"ish. Beard, long hair, barefoot, wearing maybe blue or gray pants, no shirt and a long ass coat. Kinda hard to tell in the dark even though I had turned on my phone flashlight, and he was like 5 or 6 feet away from me, at the most. Like 2 steps and he could have his hands on me. I didn't know what to do or say, like my heart was pounding, so I just pulled out my pack, and when he started to step forward, I said, "No, stop. You don't need to do that here." I just tossed him the whole thing. When I told him to stop, he did, but like weird. He stopped and put his hands up to chest height, palms out, and said, "That was a good idea to toss it." Then I just stood there for a second. I literally didn't even know what to say, and before I had the chance to, this weird dude backed away. Like he walked backwards, back towards the road to where I could no longer see him. I didn't hear footsteps after that, so I don't know if he kept walking or just stopped. I also have no clue how the F he got so close to me, or where he came from, or how he even knew I was smoking unless he was nearby enough to smell it or something, because it's not like he heard me light it. I lit it inside. Or how I've never even seen him around. I've heard noises around my house every single night since. Not like right up on my house or where the cameras would catch them, but like noises in the orchard, near the canal, too close for comfort. I'm not sure what to do. I asked the sheriff to patrol out here if they could, but they're almost never out this way, and I can't exactly report him if I don't know who he is, or if he's doing anything to be reported for. It creeped me out, and I have a weird feeling about the dude, but I don't know what I can really do about it. So yeah, that's that story. All I can really say is kind of be on your P's and Q's, like, especially if you got kids around. So here comes the next story. It's titled Absolute Horror. To preface this story, I'm a paramedic and have been for about 10 years. Working in emergency medicine, you get to see the weirdest and the worst of people, so it's not too uncommon for these type of stories to exist. However, in my 10 years, I've never experienced pure terror like I had about 6 years ago. But this may be a bit long and I hope it's worth the read. About 6 years ago, I moved to another city for work. I worked for a 911 ambulance service that responded to calls in the city, as well as the county, which had few other small towns. The city itself was not a large city, sub 100,000 people. Working for that service required working 24-hour shifts. It wasn't very busy, but maybe you'd get 5 to 10 calls in 24 hours and generally get some decent amount of sleep at night. This city was a pretty rough place as the oil industry had boomed there, which drew all sorts of folk from around the city to work in the oil fields nearby. One night in January, me and my partner, who was an EMT basic, received a call in the next town over. It was about 2 a.m. when the call came out, and the only information we had was that a person in an apartment called 911 after hearing the downstairs neighbor screaming for help. We responded urgently as the details were very limited. When we arrived on scene, police and fire department were already there, and we were getting ready to make an entrance into the building with them. The person who called 911 was there and told us which apartment she was hearing screaming from. We attempted to pound on the door at first to get the resident to come to the door. When no one answered, the fire department got ready to spread the door and make an entry. Luckily, the landlord showed up and gave us the keys to the unit. As we opened the door, the creepiness started. The apartment was pitch black, not a single light, as if no one was home. Police entered first with our flashlights and we followed. Looking around the apartment, the kitchen and dining room looked like a hoarder's nest. I'm not exaggerating when I say there were literally 5-foot-tall mountains of garbage, food, and dishes in the kitchen, and same in the living room, but with magazines, clothes, and garbage. This meant there was only a very narrow walkway to navigate the apartment. Officers proceeded down the hallway ahead where the bedroom and bathroom was. One of the officers stopped at the bathroom door as there was a light shining from underneath. The officer opened the door and just stood in the hallway with a flat tone and said, "She's in there." I walk in first into the bathroom, and the first thing I notice is the tiny amount of light in the bathroom. It was a very pale yellow light coming from a single bulb on the ceiling, similar to those old heat lamps that used to be common in bathrooms. The light gave off an odd vibe, as it's just such an unnatural light. The next thing I noticed is the lack of anything in the bathroom. No floor mats, no toilet cover, no towels, no knickknacks, just nothing. Empty. Except the vanity that contained the sink. On top, in the bowl of the sink were approximately 20 to 30 makeup bottles piled up. Some were open and leaking, causing there to be powders and liquids everywhere. The last thing I noticed was the body of an elderly woman lying naked in the tub. As I walk closer, I can see her lying on her side, nearly in the fetal position. Her skin is pale and there's about 8 inches of water in the tub. Looking at her face, her eyes are closed and her head is against the bottom of the tub with her mouth and nose completely submerged under the water. My partner steps in behind me. He suggests we just call the coroner and inform them of the body. 2 officers pile into the bathroom behind my partner so that there's 4 of us in the tiny bathroom with me next to the lady in the tub. With me being who I am, I decide to do my due diligence and at least make sure the lady is dead. I kneeled down next to the tub and reached my arm in and put my fingers on her neck and attempted to check for a corduroy pulse. In an instant, without warning or the slightest hint of movement, the woman springs up out the tub with the agility and speed of a feral cat. The only reaction I was able to manage was to just stand up as quick as possible, and I just stood there staring at her. She stared back at me, eyes wide as she can, before she started screaming at me. She attempted to cover herself with her hands as best as she could while sitting in the water still. I quickly look around and notice everyone else who was in the bathroom with me bolted out of there, not a single soul in sight. I try to steel myself and try calming the lady down, telling her who I was and why I was there, and she denied screaming and told me she does this every morning as some kind of joint condition, and soaking in warm water helps ease her joint pain. Now at this point I have my doubts and I have to question this woman's sanity. I question her regarding self-harm and address what potentially could be interpreted as suicidal behavior, but she denies all of it. The next step is to determine her mental capacity to ensure she's in the right frame of mind to make reasonable and appropriate decisions. She answers all my other questions appropriately, and at this point, per the law, she's able to refuse any and all care as she is mentally sound. I ask her if she will at least let me check her vitals so that I can be sure that she's healthy and I can add it to my report. She refuses and tells me to get out of her house, which she has the right to. I acknowledge and have her sign a refusal of service form, and as I leave the bathroom, my partner, the 2 officers that were in the bathroom with me, along with 2 other officers and firefighters that were waiting in the apartment, are just staring at me with eyes wide and gaping mouths, speechless. I don't say a word. We all leave the apartment, and once we get outside, I had the most uneasy, uncontrolled fit of laughter. My partner and the officers start laughing too. I thought I might have shit myself. My partner told me later that all he remembers is seeing her move, hearing me say, "Oh, which I don't even remember, and running out the bathroom. I wish I could say I never saw this lady again, but that would be untrue. Yeah. I don't know if I could work in a field like that with unpredictable circumstances. Kudos to whoever works in that type of medical field and whatnot. Hat goes off to you, man. And next up, we got a story called Don't Pick Up Hitchhikers. I, female 52 at the time, was traveling by car to an out-of-town job assignment. I had stopped at a popular and busy gas station to fill up the car, stretch my legs, use the bathroom, and grab a snack. I was approached by a developmentally disabled woman who appeared to be in her mid-20s. She was looking for a ride to a town a couple towns over. Her ride had abandoned her while she was in the restroom. She was a little upset. She didn't have a cell phone and didn't know any phone number so I could call someone for her. I checked with the employees at the store and they said she had been there for an hour looking for a ride because she said her friends left her while she was in the restroom. I then made the decision to do something I had never done before, offer a stranger a ride. I wasn't going to the town she wanted to, but I was heading in that direction and I told her I could drop her off at a grocery store in the next town where I would be turning off to go to my destination. The grocery store was always busy and it was very likely she'd have an easier time getting a ride to where she wanted to go. Also, she'd be 5 miles away from where she wanted to go instead of 25 miles, and she'd have an easier time walking the distance if she had to. This was agreeable to her and we set off, and right away I noticed a van following us. I tried to lose the van, but it kept pace. Meanwhile, the woman wanted to play with my phone. I told her no, it wasn't a toy, it was for work, and I moved it out of her reach. The van speeds up and starts to get closer. The woman suddenly remembers her boyfriend's phone number and that we need to call him. I can't use my phone while driving, and I was approaching the outskirts of the business district of the next town, and no cell phone use while driving signs everywhere. I told her we're almost to the grocery store, we can call him from the parking lot. She becomes agitated and yells, "No, you have to take me home." I told you I can't do that, I'm not going there. It's in the opposite direction of where I need to go and I'm expected soon. We'll call him from the parking lot. She becomes more upset and frustrated and the van is getting closer. I pull into the grocery store parking lot. It's about 4 p.m. The grocery store is busy. I pull in front of the store and ask for her boyfriend's number. She can't remember his number now. She won't get out the car and she's arguing with me and the van is pulling into the parking lot. There's a sheriff's deputy parked nearby and I roll down my window and signal that I need to speak to him. He walks over and asks me what's going on. I tell him where I met the woman and now she won't get out my car, and under my breath I tell him the van has been following us. The deputy tells the woman, "She brought you where you asked her to. It's time for you to leave her car now." She slowly gets out the car and I ask once more for her boyfriend's number and she says, "You're crazy. I don't have a boyfriend. And oh look, they're my friends now," and she points to the damn van. The deputy and I share a look and he says, "Give me your contact info. I can delay them for about 20 minutes while I check their license and registration and lecture them about abandoning a special needs adult. You get out of here and I'll check on you before my shift is over, and don't pick up any more hitchhikers." I left and went to my destination. He called me to make sure I got to where I was going and told me that he was keeping an eye on the van and its owner. He told me that he also contacted a colleague at the sheriff's department in the county where I was working and that he would contact me in a day or two. While I was on assignment there, I spoke to 2 deputies and a detective about the woman in the van. No one ever told me anything about them, but they were very interested in them. My nightmare is one day I'll turn on a true crime show and see a report about this woman and her gang robbing and killing people. So, woman looking for a ride at the travel stop, let's not meet again. And that's the end of that. Me personally, I will never ever in my life ever pick up a hitchhiker. Under extreme circumstances, probably still won't. I'm probably not gonna risk my life for some random person that could be trying to set me up or something along those lines. But yeah, that's that. I think that might be the last story. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions, as this is my first video, so I'll see you guys in the next one.